I, 34, female, own a small bakery in a mid-sized town that I opened about 5 years ago. My husband, 36, male, and I have been married for 8 years, and we have 2 kids together, 6 female, 4 male. My business isn't anything huge, but it's successful enough that I employ 4 part-time staff members, and we've built up a loyal customer base over the years. I've always been passionate about baking, and opening my own place was a dream come true after years of working in corporate finance jobs that I hated. My husband has always been supportive of my business venture. He works as an IT manager at a local company and makes decent money, which helped us during the first couple of years when the bakery wasn't turning much profit. We've had our ups and downs like any marriage, but overall, I thought we were doing pretty well. He helps with the kids when I have early mornings at the bakery, and I try to make sure I'm not always bringing work stress home. My mother-in-law, Judith, 68, female, has always been difficult. She's the type who believes wives should prioritize their husbands and children above all else. She's made passive-aggressive comments about my business since day one, asking questions like, "Don't you miss spending more time with the children?" Or, "I'm sure David," my husband, "would appreciate a home-cooked meal more often." I've mostly brushed these comments off and tried to maintain a polite relationship with her for my husband's sake. About 3 years ago, Judith's husband, my father-in-law, passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. This left her in a somewhat precarious financial situation. She owned their house outright, but didn't have much in savings and only a small pension. My husband and I discussed it and decided to help her out with a monthly allowance to supplement her income. It wasn't an enormous amount, but enough to ensure that she could maintain her lifestyle without worrying about basic expenses. The money came from our joint account, which we both contribute to, though my husband handles most of the transfers and bills. Everything was going relatively smoothly until about a month ago when I noticed something strange happening with my bakery's online presence. Out of nowhere, we started getting 1-star reviews across multiple platforms. Google, Yelp, our Facebook page, you name it. These weren't just the service was slow type of reviews. They were vicious, claiming things like finding hair in the food, alleging that our ingredients weren't fresh, suggesting that our kitchen was unsanitary, and even accusing us of discriminatory practices towards customers. I was completely blindsided. We've always maintained high standards of cleanliness and quality, and I personally train all staff on customer service. Sure, we've had the occasional unhappy customer, but nothing like this systematic attack. Within a week, our average rating had dropped from 4.7 stars to 3.2 stars, and I started noticing a decline in foot traffic. Some of our regular customers even called to ask what was going on. I was devastated and completely stressed out. I spent hours responding professionally to each review, offering to make things right, but none of the customers ever replied. I also couldn't remember serving any of these people, and the specific incidents they described never happened at my bakery. I even consulted with a lawyer about possible defamation, but she explained that proving these were fake reviews and identifying who was behind them would be difficult and expensive. My husband was supportive during this crisis, assuring me that our loyal customers knew the truth and that we'd weather this storm. He even stayed late with me several nights to help craft responses to the reviews and strategize about how to rebuild our online reputation. The mystery of who was behind these reviews consumed me. Were they from a competing bakery? A disgruntled former employee? I couldn't figure it out. And the stress was affecting everything. My sleep, my relationship with my kids, and even my marriage. David and I started having tense conversations as I obsessed over the reviews and the drop in business. Then, about 2 weeks after the review started, I was at my mother-in-law's house helping her set up a new tablet we'd gotten her for her birthday. She went to make coffee and I noticed she had left her email open. I normally wouldn't snoop, but a subject line caught my eye. Review posted as requested. Payment confirmation. My heart started racing as I quickly scanned the email. It was from someone confirming they had posted a negative review of my bakery on Google and Yelp, as Judith had paid them to do through some kind of freelance work platform. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My own mother-in-law was behind this campaign to destroy the business I'd worked so hard to build. With shaking hands, I scrolled through more of her emails and found multiple similar exchanges. She had been paying random people online to leave these horrible fake reviews. Some emails even contained the text she had suggested they use in their reviews. I don't know how I maintained my composure, but somehow I finished helping her with the tablet, made an excuse about needing to get back to the bakery, and left. I sat in my car outside her house for a good 20 minutes, alternating between crying and being absolutely furious. How could she do this to me? What kind of person tries to destroy their daughter-in-law's livelihood? I called my husband and immediately told him what I discovered. He was shocked and initially tried to suggest there must be some mistake. But when I described the email in detail, he couldn't deny it. He promised to talk to his mother right away, and I went home, too upset to return to work. That evening, David came home looking exhausted. He said he'd confronted his mother, and after initially denying everything, she had broken down and admitted to orchestrating the review campaign. Her justification? She claimed she was trying to save our marriage. According to her twisted logic, my business was taking up too much of my time and attention, causing me to neglect my husband and children. She thought if the bakery failed, I would return to being a proper wife and mother. I was speechless. The audacity of this woman to decide what was best for my marriage and family, and to actively try to destroy something I'd built from nothing. I couldn't wrap my head around it. David assured me he had made it crystal clear to her how unacceptable her actions were, and demanded she try to take down the reviews immediately. The next day, Judith called me in tears, begging for forgiveness. She claimed she only wanted what was best for her son and grandchildren, and that she never meant to hurt me personally. I was too angry to have a productive conversation and told her I needed time before I could talk to her. Over the next few days, some of the reviews started disappearing, but the damage to my business's reputation was already significant. We saw a 30% drop in sales, and I had to reduce my employees' hours, which made me feel terrible. David suggested we cut off the financial support we'd been providing to Judith as a consequence of her actions, and I agreed. About a week after confronting Judith, I received a panicked call from her. She was crying hysterically, saying her electricity had been shut off, and she didn't understand why. She mentioned receiving an overdraft notice from her bank and not having enough money for groceries. I was confused at first. We had only stopped the payments a week ago, and she should have had enough money to cover her basic expenses for at least the current month. That's when I decided to look more closely at our bank statements. What I discovered left me even more shocked than finding out about the fake reviews. The monthly payments to Judith weren't coming from our joint account, as I had assumed. They were coming directly from my business account, the account that only I was supposed to have access to. I confronted David that evening. And after some back and forth, he admitted he had been handling his mother's finances more extensively than I knew. Apparently, after his father died, Judith had been struggling more than we realized. The small pension she received barely covered her property taxes and insurance, let alone utilities and groceries. David had been sending her money from my business account for the past 2 years, much more than the amount we had agreed upon from our joint account. Here's where things get even more twisted. When I asked him how he had accessed my business account, he reluctantly admitted that he had set up the online banking for me years ago and had simply kept the login information. He claimed he didn't think I would mind since we were married and shared everything else. He justified taking money from my business rather than our joint account because the business was doing well and he didn't want to deplete our family savings. I was stunned by his betrayal. Not only had my husband been secretly taking substantial amounts of money from my business without my knowledge or consent, but he had been giving it to the very person who then tried to destroy that business. The irony was almost too much to bear. Judith had been biting the hand that was quite literally feeding her. When I pointed this out to David, he looked like he might be sick. He admitted that his mother had no idea the money was coming from my bakery. He had told her it was from his personal income. She thought she was trying to sabotage my business to save our marriage, not realizing she was undermining her own financial support in the process. I'm writing this from a hotel room where I've been staying for the past 2 days. I need space to think. David has been calling and texting constantly, begging for forgiveness and promising to make things right. Judith has also been trying to reach me, apparently now aware of where her money had been coming from and horrified by the consequences of her actions. I honestly don't know what to do. My business is suffering. My marriage feels like it's built on lies, and I'm questioning everything. I'm hurt, angry, and confused. How do I even begin to trust either of them again? Can my business recover from this? Should I press charges against my husband for essentially embezzling from my business? Against my mother-in-law for defamation? Or do I try to work through this for the sake of our children and the years we've invested in this relationship? Has anyone dealt with anything remotely similar to this mess? I could really use some advice right now. Update 1. First off, I just want to say thank you, truly, to everyone who commented or messaged me after my original post. I didn't expect that kind of overwhelming support. So many of you shared your own stories, gave advice, or just reminded me I'm not crazy for feeling the way I do. It helped more than I can say. I felt so lost and broken, and have strangers show me that kind of empathy reminded me that I'm not alone, even if it feels that way sometimes. So here's where things stand right now. After spending some time apart, I've moved back into the house, for now. David and I are sleeping in separate rooms. That was important to me. I needed to physically put up some boundaries while I figure out what comes next. I thought long and hard about whether I should stay away longer, but in the end I realized that being gone was harder on the kids than I expected. Uprooting their routine, forcing them into this weird in-between space wasn't fair to them. So I came back home, but things are definitely not back to normal. The kids have noticed something's off. Of course they have. Kids are so much more perceptive than we give them credit for. We haven't told them the full story, obviously, but we did sit them down and explain that Mommy and Daddy are going through a rough patch right now. We told them we still love them very much and that we just need some space and time to work things out. They seem to accept that for now. My oldest is definitely more affected. He's been a little quieter and more clingy, but we're doing our best to keep things stable and loving. On the legal and financial side of things, I've spoken to my lawyer. She confirmed what I already suspected, that what David did technically qualifies as embezzlement. Even though we're married, the money came from my business, which is a separate legal entity. He took it without my permission, and that makes it a serious offense. She was very clear that if I wanted to pursue criminal charges, I absolutely could. But she also made another point. If I do that, it would basically be the end of our marriage. There would be no going back. Not to mention, it could destroy David's career, which would then ripple out to our kids. His income helps support them too. I hate that I even have to consider that part. It feels like I'm being forced to choose between justice and stability. There's no easy answer here. I'm still thinking about it. We also started marriage counseling. The first session was rough. We didn't say much at first. Eventually, everything spilled out. David broke down crying, like full body shaking, barely able to breathe kind of crying. He finally opened up about what led him to do what he did. Turns out, after his dad passed away, his mom was in a much worse situation than she let on. David found out she had a ton of credit card debt that had been hidden from her, and their savings had been drained by hospital bills. He panicked. He said he felt this overwhelming pressure to take care of everyone. His grieving, financially devastated mother, our kids, the house, everything. And instead of being honest with me about it, he made a stupid, hurtful decision and took money from my business behind my back. He said he didn't want to burden me, that he thought he could fix it before I even noticed. That obviously didn't happen. To his credit, he's owning up to it. He didn't make excuses. He said flat out that he betrayed my trust and he knows that might be unforgivable. He told me he's willing to do whatever it takes to fix this, even if that means stepping away. He offered to move out if that's what I wanted, and he also agreed to sign a post-nuptial agreement giving me 100% control of the business and protecting me if we end up divorcing later. That part felt huge. It's at least one layer of security I didn't have before. He also told his mother that he will only be helping her with money from his personal income from now on, and that the amount will be reduced. No more using family money, no more sneaky help behind my back. He told her that unless she starts taking responsibility and working on herself, she's not going to be part of our lives anymore. I didn't expect him to draw that kind of line, honestly, but he did, and I appreciated that. As for the business, well, it's been a roller coaster. I ended up hiring a reputation management company to deal with the fake reviews Judith arranged. They've actually been really helpful. They've gotten several of the fake reviews taken down already, and they're helping with a new marketing strategy to bring in more positive attention. I also decided to be a little more open with our regular customers. Not about all the family drama, of course, but I let them know that we were targeted with fake reviews and that we're working to fix it. The community has been amazing. So many people have gone out of their way to leave real reviews, post supportive messages, and come by in person. A few long-time customers have brought their friends or family in just to show support. It's honestly made me cry more than once. One surprising twist, I found out that one of the people Judith hired to leave a fake review actually lives in our town. She runs a pretty well-known local blog. I reached out to her and explained what really happened, and she was horrified. Judith had told her she was doing mystery shopping for a quality check. The blogger ended up writing this amazing post about the damage fake reviews can do to small businesses, and she featured my bakery as an example of resilience and community support. It's helped us bounce back a lot faster than I thought we could. As for Judith, she calls almost every day. Some days she's crying, apologizing. Other days she's trying to justify what she did. I haven't picked up yet. I'm just not ready. Maybe I will someday, maybe not. For now, David told her she's not welcome in our home until I decide otherwise. And even then, it'll be completely on my terms. That's non-negotiable. Emotionally, I'm still a mess. I'm functioning. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm going to work. I'm getting things done, but I feel like I'm living in a fog. Some days I think maybe we can rebuild. Other days I can't even look at David without feeling hurt and angry. The therapy sessions have been intense. Helpful? Yes. But also draining. Brings up a lot that I hadn't realized I'd buried. We're both doing individual therapy now too, which I think is necessary if there's going to be any hope of healing. I haven't made any final decisions about the marriage. I'm not rushing it. I need time. I need to feel like I'm on solid ground before I can figure out whether there's a future here or not. Right now, I'm just focusing on 3 things: keeping the business stable, making sure the kids feel loved and secure, and protecting my own mental health as best I can. Everything else can wait. I'll update again when something major happens or if I come to a decision. Thank you again to everyone who's followed along and shown support. I read every comment, even if I didn't respond to all of them. It means more than you know. Update 2. Things have taken an unexpected turn since my last update. 3 days ago, I received an email from one of the people Judith had hired to post fake reviews. This person, who identified themselves as a college student who does freelance work online, said they felt guilty after posting the review and had been keeping an eye on my bakery's online presence. They noticed the reviews being removed and other discussions online about fake reviews targeting my business. In their email, they included screenshots of all their communications with Judith, including the payment receipts and the specific instructions she gave them about what to write. What shocked me most was that these communications went back over 3 months. Not just the month when I started noticing the reviews. Judith had been planning this campaign for much longer than I realized. Even more disturbing, in some of these emails, Judith specifically mentioned wanting to show David that her baker wife isn't as successful as she pretends to be, and that once the business fails, she'll have to rely on my son's income like a proper wife should. Reading these words made me physically ill. The calculated nature of her plan and the deeply thinking behind it were worse than I had imagined. I forwarded these emails to my lawyer, who advised that I now had solid evidence for a defamation case against Judith if I wanted to pursue it. I also shared them with David, who was visibly shaken by his mother's words. He immediately called her and had what I gather was an extremely heated conversation, after which he was pale and quiet for the rest of the evening. The next morning, David told me that he had given his mother an ultimatum. She needed to make a full public apology acknowledging what she had done, agree to attend therapy to address her toxic beliefs and behaviors, and sign a legally binding agreement never to interfere with our lives or my business again. Or if he would cut contact with her completely and ensure she never saw her grandchildren again. Judith initially balked at these terms, especially the public apology, claiming it would humiliate her in the community. David stood firm, and after 24 hours of silence, she reluctantly agreed. Yesterday, Judith came to our house, at my permission, for a controlled meeting with David and me. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. She handed me a handwritten letter of apology, which I haven't fully read yet, and a cashier's check for $15,000, which she said was to help with the reputation management costs and lost business. When I asked how she could afford this, she admitted she had sold her late husband's vintage car collection, which she had been keeping in storage, something she had previously refused to consider despite her financial problems. The meeting was tense and brief. I accepted the check but made no promises about forgiveness or future relationship. Judith seemed to understand that she has a very long road ahead to earn back any trust, if that's even possible. As for my marriage, David and I have continued therapy both together and individually. My individual therapist has helped me see that while David's actions were a serious breach of trust, they came from a place of misguided responsibility rather than malice. He was trying to fulfill obligations to both his mother and our family and made terrible choices in the process. This doesn't excuse what he did, but it helps me understand it. The business is slowly recovering. The reputation management company has been worth every penny. And our sales have started to pick up again. I've been able to restore my employees' hours, which is a huge relief. Several competing bakeries in town even reached out with support after hearing about what happened, which was a touching show of community solidarity. In a strange twist, this whole ordeal has forced me to become more involved in the financial side of my business than I was before. I've realized that while I was focused on the creative and operational aspects, I had been somewhat negligent about the financial management. I've now set up proper systems, changed all passwords and access points, and I'm working with a small business financial advisor to create better protocols. In some ways, my business will be stronger for having gone through this crisis. The children seem to be adjusting to the new normal. We've maintained their routines as much as possible, and while they know that Grandma has done something that hurt Mommy's feelings, we've spared them the details. They've had one supervised video call with her since everything happened, which went as well as could be expected. I'm still taking things day by day with David. We continue to sleep in separate rooms, but we're having more normal conversations and even had dinner as a family last night without tension. He's been completely transparent with all financial matters, turning over passwords and account access, and has shown receipts for every purchase he makes. It's almost uncomfortable how eager he is to prove his trustworthiness now, but I understand why it's necessary. I still have moments of overwhelming anger and sadness about the whole thing. Truth is easier to break than to rebuild, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we might find a way forward, even if our relationship will never be quite the same. Judith's public apology is scheduled to go on her social media accounts tomorrow. She's agreed to personally visit the bakery to apologize to my staff as well. I'm both dreading and looking forward to this next step. I'll update again after that happens and once I've had time to process it. Update 3. Last few days have been an absolute whirlwind and things have taken yet another unexpected turn, though this time it's not entirely bad. First, Judith did follow through with her public apology. She posted a statement on her Facebook page admitting that she had orchestrated a campaign of fake negative reviews against my bakery due to her outdated and harmful beliefs about a woman's role in marriage. She acknowledged that her actions were wrong, potentially illegal, and caused significant harm to a small business and its employees. She also confirmed that she was seeking therapy to address her toxic thinking patterns. The community reaction was swift and intense. Judith has lived in this town for over 40 years and was fairly well connected through her church and various community organizations. Many of her friends expressed shock and disappointment. Some defended her intentions while condemning her methods, but most were firmly critical of her actions. Several people reached out to me directly to express support for my business, and our weekend sales were the highest they've been in months. Judith came to the bakery as promised to apologize to my staff. I wasn't sure how this would go, but I felt my team deserved to hear directly from the person who had put their jobs at risk. The meeting was awkward but necessary. My head baker, who's been with me since I opened, didn't mince words about how the reduced hours had affected her ability to pay her rent. Judith listened, apologized again, and left looking thoroughly chastened. As for my relationship with David, we've continued therapy and have had several breakthrough moments. Last night we sat down and had the most honest conversation of our marriage. He admitted that he'd always felt inadequate compared to my passion and drive for my business, and that part of him had enabled his mother's behavior because there was a small, insecure piece of him that sometimes wished I was more dependent on him. It was painful to hear, but I appreciated his honesty. I shared that I've sometimes prioritized the bakery over our family and haven't always been attentive to his needs or included him in important decisions. We both acknowledged patterns that need to change if our marriage is going to work going forward. For the first time in weeks, we slept in the same bed last night. We're not fully back to normal, and I don't think we ever will be, But maybe we'll find a new normal that's actually healthier than what we had before. Judith has kept her distance, respecting our boundaries. She did send a text saying she's completed her first therapy session and is committed to the process. David has been managing all communication with her, which is a relief for me. The college student who sent me the email evidence reached out again after seeing the social media buzz. They apologized once more and asked if there was anything they could do to help. I suggested they write an honest review of their experience actually visiting my bakery, which they did, giving us 5 stars. My lawyer is pleased with how things have turned out and believes the public apology and financial compensation from Judith, combined with the business recovery, means there's no need to pursue legal action at this point. We've drafted a formal agreement that Judith has signed, acknowledging her actions and agreeing to certain boundaries going forward. I still have moments of anger and distrust, but they're becoming less frequent. The outpouring of community support has been incredibly healing. One of my regular customers, an older woman who comes in every morning for a croissant, hugged me today and said, "Sometimes we need to go through the fire to find out what we're made of." I think she's right. I don't know what the future holds for my marriage or for my relationship with Judith. I'm not sure if complete forgiveness is possible or even necessary, but I do know that my business is stronger than ever, and I've discovered a resilience in myself that I didn't know I had. Thank you to everyone who has followed this crazy story and offered advice and support along the way. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that even the most difficult situations can sometimes lead to unexpected opportunities. I'm hopeful that things will get better. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.